Passenger charges at Dublin Airport will be cut. The Commission for Aviation Regulation, who made the decision, say the cut in charges to an average of €7.87 per passenger over the next 5 years will save passengers and airlines over €300 million. But the company that runs Dublin Airport are not happy and say the move is a disaster for the Irish economy. We'll hear from the DAA's Chief Executive shortly, but first, here's Cathy Mannion, Commissioner for Aviation Regulation, talking to our business editor Will Goodbody.
This whole pricing determination is based on business as normal. As everyone would say, nobody really knows what a hard Brexit means, but we know that it's the risk that Dublin Airport faces. So what we've decided to do there is allow Dublin Airport the opportunity to come to us within the 5 years, if let's say a hard Brexit were to occur and they are concerned at the consequences of that. So to the extent that that undermines the assumptions underlying our decision, well, we'll allow them to come back to us and say, well, look, can you reopen that decision, have another look at it and come up with a new decision, and we will do that.
In terms of benchmarking this, I mean, Dublin Airport would argue that in terms of Europe and European charges, they have amongst the lowest in Europe, and yet you're talking about cutting them further.
Well, there's 2 points that I'd like to say in relation to that. About 90% of people who leave Ireland go through Dublin Airport, and I'd say for those passengers, the price of Dublin Airport being efficient is what's most important to them, as opposed to how Dublin Airport compares to other airports in other countries. And the other thing to bear in mind is that Dublin Airport is developing a hub, and so it's very important when you're competing with other countries to try and get business to go through your hub. And so in that context, it's best to have the most efficient price. And in terms of looking at Dublin Airport's costs, we did look at some of the benchmark figures, but we thought the most effective way to do it is to look at the cost of Dublin Airport, come to a view as to whether they are efficient or not, and allow the efficient costs to be recovered from passengers. And
just finally, if the various parties to this are unhappy, can they appeal it?
Yes, there's a very clear process in place. I mentioned earlier, it's not a negotiation between ourselves and Dublin Airport. There's also airlines in this equation who need to sit and think through our decision of today. And so if either airlines or the airport are unhappy with our decision, there's a clear process in place where they can approach the departments to get an appeals panel set up, and then that process kicks in and the panel makes a recommendation then to ourselves to take account of.
That's Cathy Mannion, the Commissioner for Aviation Regulation, talking to our business editor Will Goodbody. Dalton Phillips is the Chief Executive of the DAA who run Dublin Airport. He's in our studio. Dalton Phillips, thank you very much for coming in to us. You're unhappy with this decision. Why?
Deeply unhappy, because I think this is a disaster for Ireland's connectivity in a post-Brexit world where we need to invest in infrastructure. The pricing of Dublin Airport today is extremely competitive compared to any other European airport. We charge €9.30, and that new price is going to drop to €7.50. It's over 20% reduction, and that inhibits your ability to go out and borrow money to fund infrastructure that we need to connect this country to the rest of the world.
The Commission says it's mindful of your need to invest. It says that we allow for €2.3 billion of investment, which will deliver an airport capable of serving 40 million passengers a year at a level of service in line with international standards.
Yeah, look, it's all theory. The fact is we need to go out and borrow €2 billion, and we're going to be sitting down with banks and saying, look, our revenue stream has been cut by 20%. So it makes it much harder. What you end up doing, if you could borrow the money, is you leverage up what is a state asset. It's well run, it pays a dividend into the country, and what we're doing here is transferring the wealth from the public to the private sector. This is a windfall gain to the airlines, which are already making record profits, and we're seeing record dividends, supersized dividends, outflowing from the country to foreign-owned airlines. It's a nonsense.
Well, as Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, pointed out to Brian Finn earlier on, he felt this move was a very good move for passengers because it would reduce airline fares.
There is no evidence whatsoever that the €1.50 or €2 that it's been reduced by goes to customers. There's all the evidence.
Aer Lingus say they'll pass on the saving to customers.
Aer Lingus have just taken a supersized dividend, or IAG has. So there's no evidence. But what we do know is that I can't think of any product or service in this country that's cheaper than in Europe. Look, it rains all the time, and milk's not even cheaper. And we'll have a situation here whereby Dublin Airport, the gateway to the rest of the world for Ireland, is going to be 50% cheaper than other comparable airports. something
What
doesn't
other
add up.
comparable airports?
Take any airport. Heathrow would be 4 times the cost of Dublin Airport. Copenhagen, which would be a very similar size airport, building a hub infrastructure, as Cathy talks about, is double the price of Dublin. It's a nonsense.
The Commissioner, in explaining her ruling, says that one of the reasons for reducing passenger charges is the money that the airport makes from, for example, car parks and shops.
It's saying now that we should charge more, and what I'm saying is that we are very competitively priced. You do need to benchmark our business against other businesses, and we are going to be 50% cheaper in a country where we have lacked good infrastructure in so many other sectors. We're now saying in the aviation sector we're going to start constraining the amount of capital that the business can invest because it won't be able to borrow it.
You sound deeply opposed to the move. Are you going to appeal the decision?
There was a 174-page determination dropped last night by the regulator at 7 p.m. We'll work our way through it, but ultimately the regulator ends up being the judge and jury in this process. There's no board, there's no governance around this let me work through with my board and we'll make a decision.
Dalton Phillips, Chief Executive of the DAA. Thank you very much for coming into it.